This is the fifth time I have started the recording of this episode of the Cliff Ravenscraft Show, and I'm just going to go live to drive. I'm going to scrapped. See, I already made a mistake. I'm going to scrap the outline that I had, and I'm going to share with you the prompt that I gave to ChatGPT. Let's do it this way. I said, I'm thinking about creating a raw, authentic, and transparent episode of the Cliff Ravenscraft Show, sharing some of this weekend, but it feels vulnerable. There's a part of me that wants to talk about just how much clarity has come from this season in my life. Now, I wrote down 6 possible topics that I might cover, and I'm going to read to you each one, but then share with you from my heart what I mean by this. And I'm going to ignore ChatGPT's instruction. No, that's not right. Constructive feedback on how to say certain things in a certain way and all that, all the stuff. No, I just not going to do that. I'm going to speak to you from my heart about what's going on. Number 1, the continued conscious awareness of my daily logging and reflections, helping me identify the exact systems that are a part of my life that are creating results both desired and undesired. Now, if you were to go and look at the feed of the archives of the feed of this show, you would find episode 824. Last week, I talked about the pruning principle, cutting back what has overgrown. That came as a result of my daily logs, and I gave credit to my form of journaling that I'm using these days with the Plod Note Pro, which I went into in great depth back in episode 822, titled The Most Powerful Journaling Practice I've Ever Experienced. Now, what I will just share with you is that I continue to use my daily logs. I record into my Plod Note Pro, and at the end of each day, there's been some modifications on how I do the step-by-step process since episode 822, but it's still pretty much the same essence. It's just the workflow that I do has been altered. But anyway, each day, I record check-ins throughout the day, and at the end of the day, I get a reflection, and I'm asking for blind spots, patterns, helping with me just process and go through the things that I'm experiencing, what's working, what's not working, different approaches, ideas on just all sorts of stuff, and it's been really amazing. And I have had a lot of things that have become very clear that should be listed under the blinding case of the obvious, but somehow it escaped my conscious awareness until I began doing these daily logs. So, first of all, I've just now shared with you that I continue to use my daily logging practice with the Plod Note Pro for continued conscious awareness. Topic number 1, done. It is revealing both the results that I'm getting that are desired and undesired. If there's anything that I want to point out to you about this, is it's revealing the systems, the repeated behaviors, the repeated actions, the repeated thought patterns, the repeated feelings, the repeated inner narration. Those things are all being mirrored back to me every day. And it's like, wow. It reminds me of coaching conversations when I have a conversation with somebody and they say something out loud and I say it back to them. I'm like, well, when you put it that way, I said, well, let me pause you for just a moment. You do realize that I didn't put it that way. You did. All I did was repeat what you just said. Oh my gosh, I did say that, didn't I? Yes, you did. This is exactly what I'm doing for myself. I'm creating these mirrored back. This is what you are experiencing. Is this actually getting you what you want? Or is this leading you down a path of things that you don't want? And what do you want to do related to this? It's such an incredible practice, and I love it. And it's one of the greatest things. I've had versions of this throughout my life. Never have I had it so intentional and consistent, where it's not just impacting one area of my life and then some of the others I lose conscious awareness of, but because of the type and the way that I'm doing all of this now, all areas of my life are getting attention, and it is kind of freaking me out a little bit because, wow, I realize this is one of those things. It's just transparent. I realize I have other areas of life. Seriously, that's a little bit. It's a little bit more blown out there. I've been aware of it, but the thing is I have this ability to get so hyper focused in certain areas of my life that it's not that I'm losing interest in the other areas. It's just that they fall out of my conscious awareness. And so at the end of the day, I may have conversations for 15, 20, 30 minutes with this person, this person, this person, and this person. But the end of the day, before I had these daily logs, I'd have no idea that I had those conversations. They would be wiped from short-term and long-term memory. It's just like there's no storage of that anywhere. And so after I get through a very beefy day, one with great meaning, one with great purpose, and I ask for a daily reflection on my daily log, reflect back to me, what did I do today? Who were the people I talked to? Share with me a reflection. Give me thoughts and ideas. Identify patterns. Are there any places that there are blind spots? And just getting this back. And it's like, oh, I did have that. Oh, I did experience that today. There is something powerful about being more consciously aware of each of the areas of my life, the little nuances. It has brought so much more clarity. And I am not going to use the word balance, but a more integrated life overall is emerging in a way that I would say that there are seasons where I lean more into this side of my life, and there's seasons where but now all of a sudden I'm in a season where I'm seeing momentum in all areas of my life. And it's not all perfect. There's not a single day has been perfect, but it has all been moving in a direction that feels right. There are certainly things like lessons that I've learned. I should know this by now. And now when I'm actually in a repeated behavioral or even action or thought pattern, I find myself becoming consciously aware of it, not at the end of the day when I'm doing my reflection. I actually find myself being consciously aware that I am currently in the center of a repeated pattern right now. And I can change this pattern right now, intentionally, consciously. I love it. All right. Boy, part of me asks, should I be reading these out loud before I share them with you? But I'm going to read number 2. There's a question in my mind about potentially sharing how the Prosperous Coach method for creating clients has been such an incredible and powerful strategy for helping me build my business. But how when there aren't filters in place, I can find myself running more of a nonprofit ministry than a business that leads to income. I know that this would need to be handled with care, but it would be a part of the episode I would choose. Let's see here. No, but it would be a part of the episode if I choose to include it. Maybe one of the most vulnerable angles. Easy for me to say. I'm not going to edit this. Maybe one of the most vulnerable angles, but that's to be seen as I move forward because I think there's something that could be more vulnerable. Anyway, what I will say about this second topic, about the Prosperous Coach method for creating clients. This is something that I've been employing since July of 2019. And at one point, I would have told you, I feel like I have mastered this. I got to the place where over the course of just a few short months, I had used the rooms that I was in to network with people who were high capacity entrepreneurs who were standing at thresholds and decision points in their career where when I got on a stage at a conference, they came up to me and said, Cliff, I'd like to talk to you. And I said, hey, what's going on? Tell me more about it. And they would share what they're currently facing. I would invite them into a complimentary coaching experience. I'd help them get some clarity on some next steps. I'd ask them if they're committed to taking it. On a scale of 1 to 10, how likely are you to do this within the next 2 weeks? Why is it a 7 out of 10? What's the gap? What would need to be changed? Let's talk about that. Get them to a 10 out of 10 that they're going to do the thing that they say they want. And then check in with them 2 weeks later, giving them a second complimentary coaching experience. And then at the end of that, if they've taken action, and I feel like they could benefit from more of this, I would propose to them. And my experience has been that 50% say yes to a full-on proposal for a 1-year relationship, and 50% say no for now. And even back then, the no for nows were genuinely, Cliff, I would love to work with you. I do not currently have the financial capacity at this time to invest at that level. And so because of that, I had enough, because of the rooms that I was in, where I had people that had plenty of financial viability to invest in their personal and professional development through the rooms that I create. It had gotten to the place where my business transparently needs at least $20,000 a month to operate and give my wife and I and our family the lifestyle that we have grown accustomed to. And the Prosperous Coach method helped us get to the place where we were consistently hitting over $30,000 a month. Actually, not over $30,000 a month. That is not accurate. The accurate number was we were at $29,500 per month average. There were some months that were over that, but it was an average of $29,500 each month. And that worked incredibly well, even through the pandemic. In fact, the pandemic kind of turned the fuel on the fire of the things, because so many people were at a threshold needing to pivot and figure out how to overcome some of their emotional stuff that they were dealing with. And as a result of that, I saw lots of clients on board. But most of that came from those days when I had been on all of those stages and when I was showing up on social media. And I was back in the days of creating content consistently week after week back in those days. But after I got to this place where it's like, man, I've got all of these people in the rooms that I have created. I'm seeing all of the transformation that's experienced by all of these paid clients. I'm currently making about $10,000 a month more than what I intend to create in my business. And a couple of things happened. I stopped creating content consistently. Because of the pandemic and shutting all of the events down, I stopped hosting my own annual conference. I stopped speaking at everyone else's annual conference. And I also changed my production value back in those days to I will create an episode whenever I feel inspired, which was an average of 1 to 2 episodes a month for this particular podcast, The Cliff Ravenscraft Show. And that was the only content I was publishing publicly on a consistent basis, or at least that consistent basis. And it wasn't consistent, and that's the key. And so as a result of that, over time, my pipeline of new people coming into the Prosperous Coach method had started to thin out. The number of people who are in the top of funnel, if you will, and I don't really like that language, but it's language that I think just is a metaphor that you can understand. The people that I could connect with and invite into this Prosperous Coach method for creating clients, there were less and less of those people. And so when I came to a place where I'm like, you know what, I should probably turn this thing back on. Let's start to bring some new people into the rooms that I create. I began to re-implement the Prosperous Coach method for creating clients. And I don't know if there is anything that is true to the fact that things are shifted in the economy, but I have just noticed that I have been filling my schedule 8 90-minute sessions a week, every week, showing up, meeting with people that have never had an experience to coach with me before, learning who they are, what's going on in their world, what their desired outcomes are, where they currently are, helping them identify the obstacles, the struggles that are currently standing in their way, and then asking some clarifying questions that immediately obliterate, like completely eliminate those barriers. And they get clarity on exact next steps. And then I would invite them to come back in 2 weeks. And I've got people who have said, you know what, Cliff, I've actually had 4 or 5 manuscripts for books, and it's been my dream and desire to become a published author. And for years now, it's been a dream, and I just can't get myself to do this. And I'm like, well, let's make this happen. And guess what happened? On his anniversary, one such individual became a published author. I actually have a printed copy of his new book. It's right here on my desk because of a single conversation. And then we had a second conversation, and I made a proposal. I said, would you like to work? It's like, Cliff, I would absolutely love to. The only thing is I'm in a situation right now where financially we had this happen, this happened, this happened. And matter of fact, I'm going to share with you exactly word for word. He says, my wife has told me, she says, you would not have done this and this and this. And he was referring to 3 things, one of which was published the book. She said, you would have not done these 3 things had you not had that one conversation with Cliff. I think it should be our number one priority to get you in a financial situation where as soon as we are able to, you will hire Cliff. You will choose to work. That is exactly what his wife spoke. And I said, that is amazing. Do you have any idea on like a time frame in your mind of when you think that might be? Now, this conversation happened, I think, right around April, maybe mid-May. And he said, yeah, I think probably by the end of year, maybe December, maybe January of next year. I said, wonderful. And so I'm like, listen, I told you when I bring people into these sessions, it's no strings attached, no expectation, no obligation that you become a paid client. So I want you to know, even with everything you've just shared with me and your desire, there's still no pressure for you to become a paid client in December or January of next year. But if anything can happen before then or at that time and you want to work together, I would be delighted to have you in this room more consistently. And so that is just one example of a lot of examples. And something unique has happened a lot lately. And it's just these past 3 months. It's just that I have noticed a pattern of myself inviting people into these sessions without any filters. And I think it has a lot to do, actually, let me just get out of that language. I know and have discovered and become aware of the fact that I was doing this because I had gone so long without filling these 90-minute sessions that the goal became to just fill as many of these sessions every single week, and the numbers will pan out. I have a track record. I've had hundreds of people. Matter of fact, these details don't matter to you, but I can tell you right now, I've brought in 356 people into the Prosperous Coach method for creating clients. That's 356 people that I've given complimentary 90-minute experiences of my time, for a total of 584 complimentary coaching experiences. I've proposed to 197 of the 356 people, and 98 have said yes, 98 have said no for now. So I've got the numbers, and my thinking process at the time was, I will just invite as many people in, and at the end of the month, 50% will say yes. The only thing is, though, is I was having first conversations with individuals, and they were telling me in the first conversation, there's absolutely no way I could hire you, even if I experienced like the wildest transformation in the world. This is what's going on in my life financially, and it's just not going to be a reality. Also, keep in mind that the only thing that I have to offer was a high ticket cost mastermind group and or one-on-one coaching experience with a 1-year commitment. And so I'm like, okay. And as a result of that, I still invited some of those folks to a second session, but not all of them. Some of them, it became quite clear. It's like, wait a second, this is an obvious, this person's not going to say yes to a proposal. This person is not necessarily a great fit for ongoing coaching because they're not yet clear on what they want. They're not yet clear on a business model. They're still testing things out. And so there's been a number of reasons. And here's the thing that I learned as I began to reflect on a daily basis each of these conversations and going through and finding the patterns. I realized that when I came back to the Prosperous Coach method, I was like, here's one filter. Actually, here's two filters. Number one, is the person I'm speaking to, are they on the entrepreneurial path? If the answer is yes, okay, filter number one passed. Okay, great. Number two, are they currently facing something in their life where my coaching could be of benefit? If the answer is yes to that, second filter is passed. Now, because those were the only two filters, I made the invitation. And I'm like, I just went willy-nilly inviting anyone who I knew on the entrepreneurial path who had a situation going on where my coaching could be benefiting them. And I can tell you right now, emotionally and just my meaning and purpose, filling up my session, doing 8 90-minute blocks of time every single week, it is like, wow, this is why I'm on this earth. I love doing this. This is amazing. They're feeling it too. But guess what? It's not generating any revenue near like it used to. And the reality is that I came to this awareness. It's like, wow, since I've been fully committed to bringing back the Prosperous Coach method for creating clients, I recognize that I've had no filter whatsoever as to, is this person in a place where they have financial capacity to invest in themselves, their dreams, their personal and professional development. Not once did I consider that. And it's never been an issue before. It's always been, sure, there's 50% who can't, and I'll just, I will be able to have more than enough financially for myself and my family with the 50% who do have that capacity. And the great news is I have discerned that pretty much everybody that I bring into this process wants to work with me, and they get results. It's incredible. But the thing is that lately, what I've recognized is like, I have found myself gravitating to people who are currently struggling. And that's not a bad thing. I definitely want to serve, but I recognize that if I continue this pattern for too long, I will no longer be serving from a cup that's overflowing. And that is something that I've been navigating. It's like, Okay, I have been doing a lot of pro bono work for individuals who are very clearly not in a financial situation. And one of the notes that I made to myself, and it's just very straightforward. This is, I will tell you that I had to ask myself, man, am I going to be less generous if I stop inviting all of these individuals that I know who could benefit from my help? And it came down to the fact that it's not that I'm going to never serve those and be generous to those who are not likely to ever pay me. The question is am I filling my calendar so full with those people that I'm not able to have space in my calendar to serve those who could pay me? It's a stewardship question. So here's the clarity that came out of this season. I wrote this statement: complementary coaching sessions are no longer primary discovery mechanism, or no longer the primary discovery mechanism for financial viability or basic fit. These complementary coaching sessions are reserved for people who have already shown enough evidence that a proposal could be appropriate if the session creates real value. Discovery should happen earlier through short messages, relational questions. I can review their profiles. I can check out business signals. I can check out audience. There are revenue clues. Direct curiosity about what they're building and what kind of support they're already considering. And so when I'm connecting, I'll be more powerful. I'm reading this statement. When I'm connecting, I'll ask more powerful questions that reveal signal. And then I will invite only when there is financial plausibility, or when financial viability is plausible. Now, that is not a concrete statement. Transparently, I'm going to tell you right now, if I come across somebody and I just feel something in my heart, this person could really use a hand up in the world. If I sense that and they cross my path, I'm still very likely to invite that person in, knowing full and well the likelihood on a scale of 1 to 10 that they're going to become a paid client within the next 90 days is a 1 or 2. My pattern that I have been consciously aware of because of my daily logs is that about 85% of all the people I've been coaching have been a 1 or 2. And I realized that I've been running a nonprofit ministry for the last 6 weeks. And that's like, ooh, okay, let's work on that. So anyway, I've got some things in place there. So that's number 2 topic that I wanted to authentically raw share with you. The third topic, I said another topic that's been on my mind is family. I've been working with some clients who are already engaging with responsibilities related to aging parents. I have a handful of clients that have parents, moms and or dads that are experiencing early stage Alzheimer's and or other life-threatening illnesses, and some have recently passed. And so I've definitely had clients that are bringing the aging parent and the care for aging parent and that responsibility to the forefront of my conscious awareness. And, my wife and I have a set of parents each where that is something that is in the front of our mind. That's about as much as I'll share, is that it is on our mind that there is a season that seems to be approaching. And it's on our conscious awareness. The other thing that I will share is that we're just now in a season where we've had this empty nest, and then of course our son Matthew decided we brought him back home to live with us while he finishes up college and stuff like that. So, but it seems like wait a second. It's like, wow, so much of our life together as husband and wife has been devoted to raising our children and responsible for their care. And some people, now I know my wife is not as excited about empty nest as I am, but I did taste the nectar of empty nest for several months, and I will tell you, it was good. This guy right here, I'm an introvert. I love my solitude. I love quiet. I love all sorts. And having this house and sharing it only with my wife is ultimate bliss. I love it. And so, but anyway, I recognize that just this thing that's going through my life as I'm navigating the fact that, wow, kids are coming in and out. So I'm going to talk about this in the next topic, but my son, who has been living back at home, just left for a month, and I'll talk about that next. Our daughter, who is getting ready to go off to Fort Worth, Texas to law school. She's coming home for a couple of days. We'll go back down to Bowling Green, come back, and she will be staying and living here with us for maybe a week or two. I don't know all the details on that. And then we will be driving her down the Fort. So we've got all of this stuff. And I recognized the other day as I was walking with Stephanie, I'm like, man, I just can't seem to get enough. It's like, for me, I'm like, man, I really miss this idea of having empty nest. I thought this season was here, and for me, I'm grieving, if you will, not having an empty nest. Meanwhile, being consciously aware as I'm having this walk conversation. My wife and I walk for 2 to 3 miles every Monday through Friday. And I'm recognizing, oh my gosh, I'm sitting here grieving the fact that I don't have an empty nest. And my wife is grieving the fact that this nest that has the children here in her presence is going away. She's actually grieving the fact that, wow, my youngest daughter is getting ready to move to Fort Worth, Texas. She's grieving the fact that our oldest is already out and married, and she's loving every moment our youngest comes home. She's loving every moment our oldest comes to visit. She is loving all of the time and attention with our son that she gets while he's here during these years that he's finishing up college. I recognize that we have two different thoughts about empty nest and navigating that, and for me, should I feel guilty about the fact that I miss and I grieve the empty nest? And of course, I already know the answer to that is no. I shouldn't feel guilty. I have a unique way of thinking about things, which, by the way, leads me to the fourth topic. So, by the way, just topic number 3, it's just on my mind that it seems like my wife and I are in what's called a liminal space as it relates to caring for kids and that season that is maybe it will at one point pass, and there might be this liminal space between how much time before what it looks like to be caring for aging parents. I know that I'm not alone in this, and so I share it with you so you can say, wow, it's okay to speak what's going on in your world, what you're noticing, what you're being aware of out loud. Do you have a room like this? This is I'm going to invite you into a room by the end of this conversation. But let's go to topic number 4. I've been thinking about my own fatherhood. Here's, by the way, this I'm going to read to you this is the same prompt. So far, everything I've been reading about this is the prompt that I gave to ChatGPT. ChatGPT gave me back this outline, and the outline was terrible. I love ChatGPT, and it was great. It was wonderful advice, but it was too complicated for my brain to follow it and try to make it sound natural and still sound like me. And so that's why I'm giving you the prompt and not the response in the outline. So here is item number 4 in the things that I told ChatGPT I was thinking about giving you in this episode. I said, I'm thinking about my own fatherhood. There are many men in my life where being a father is at the top of their list. You know what? I'm just realizing that this is actually a modified, cleaned up, polished version of this prompt because I used whisper flow. And I happen to know that I use things about values, and I don't think the word values is here. But I'm still going to do this. Thinking about my own fatherhood, there are many men in my life where being a father, and I don't think I would have actually said father, where being a dad is at the top of their list. And what that means for them, from my perspective, again, I'm not editing this. And what that means for them, from my perception, is that they spend quality time with their kids in ample amounts. They have direct conversation where they are consistently guiding and shaping and molding, etc., their experience of life. And how that's not been a part of my own approach to fatherhood. And where mine has been my identity, I identify more with husband first and then provider for the family. And then I said here, and I've not lived that same relationship with my kids. It's been more of a hands-off approach. If I compare what I see with some of these other men in my life where dad is their number one title. And so basically that was the prompt for subject number 4 here. I want to just tell you that I don't feel guilty at all about how I parent and how I father. But I will share with you that when I do look at some men in my life that like dad is their, it is their jam. Being dad is their jam. They have some very clear it's the highest priority is their role as dad. Whereas I grew up, my biological dad was not a part of my daily experience of life from the time I was 4 or 5 years old all the way up until when he passed in 2015. And so he was a part of my life, but in glimpses. And the man I call my dad today, he is my dad. He adopted me after my biological dad passed away. He says, Cliff, I'd like to know if you would be open to having me adopt you. And I said, absolutely. And so the man who had been my stepdad since I was like 5 or 6 years old, today is my adopted dad. I still kept I said, if you don't mind, I'd like to keep my last name. I don't know if that is, I didn't know at the time. It's like, is it required that you change your name when you get adopted, your last name? He says, no, it's not required, and I would not be offended if you didn't take my name. I loved my biological dad. I carry his name. He had the same name that I do. And not to mention the fact that I have a very public brand as a personal brand as Cliff Ravenscraft. So so anyway, what I say all of that to say this, the man I call my dad today, who's been the father figure in my life, has had a bit more of a hands-off approach. Work, husband and provider of the family was how he showed up in the world. And he was a great provider. He worked very hard. I got a lot of my work ethic from him. And while I don't recall the two of us sitting down having heart-to-hearts about anything, I don't remember ever sitting down and him asking me philosophical questions, or him and I dialoguing, or him trying to shape my worldview. That's just never been a part of our relationship, and nor with my biological dad, obviously. And so I think about the man that I am today, and I love the man that I am today. I love how I show up in the world. I have a servant's heart. I care for people. I have great empathy. I have great work ethic. I love who I am. And I love so much about the fact that who I am was because of that hands-off approach. I wasn't guided and shaped into something that is different than who I am. It is what I'm getting at. And so I don't think it was ever a conscious decision, but I kind of just followed the pattern of that hands-off fathering. And so when I think about that, sometimes I feel like, wow, how deep is my relationship with my children? My relationship with my wife, because my identity is husband first and then provider of family. Ironically, father would be third on the list. I'm just being transparent. I told you, raw, authentic, transparent. So if we think about just three roles, ROLE, number one, husband to my wife. Number two, provider for the family. Number three, my role as a father. That is just how I've operated. I'm not saying it's right, and I certainly am not telling you that I feel any shame or guilt about it either. It's just different than what I witness with some of my friends who speak a great deal about their priority and their number one responsibility as dad. But anyway, the reason why this comes up is because of topic number 5. Okay, topic number 5. I said here's how Whisper Flow translated what I said, and how this weekend I found myself breaking down in tears for the first time in several years. In fact, I'm not one who cries much at all as an adult. If I had to guess the number of times that I've cried, that I can recall, like full out, just expressing full on emotion, unhindered, unheld back tears, and flat out crying, it would be the following. When my biological dad died in 2015, when my oldest daughter, Megan, when we dropped her off at college that first year, I bawled like a baby. When I dropped my son Matthew off at college for the first time, that first year that he went to college, I bawled like a baby. When I dropped our youngest daughter off at college for that first year, I bawled like a baby. I just like full out, full body cry. And the last, those are 3 times that I cried. When my dad died, and actually 4 times, and when each of my kids, when I dropped them off to college for the first time. And then this morning, I cried. So I want to just take for just a moment and just share with you the picture of what came up for me today. My oldest daughter is now married. She graduated college. She found work that she loved. She found a job that was well suited to her vision of what she wanted to create for herself. She decided she wanted to move from Bowling Green, Kentucky to Northern Kentucky. She found an incredible job that was still perfectly aligned with what she wanted and the life that she wanted. And then she got married, and then she also found a different job that gave the perks and everything, that it's just their lives are just on this trajectory. And watching her and her husband, my son-in-law, just go through life with so much possibility and knowing and clarity of who they are and what they want. They are such amazing humans. And to know that my role as husband and provider of family and father, and a majority of credit goes to the incredible power of my wife, is just amazing. I'm so proud of them. And they're just now out house shopping for their first home. I just love my daughter, Megan. I love how her and my son-in-law show up in the world. Second, I'm going to come back to Matthew in just a moment. My daughter, McKenna, she recently just graduated from Bowling Green, from Western Kentucky University. And she graduated, is it called Cum Laude, 4.0 GPA. She did it in 3 years because she did a whole year and a half of college as a high school student. And she went in expecting to get top honors and perfect grades, and her desire right around 1 year into her work towards bachelor's, she decided, I want to go to law school. She made a presentation. She talked about law school. She talked about the importance of well-ranked law school, what careers she could pursue and what was interesting to her, and made a case. And she goes, do you guys think I'm crazy? And my wife and I are like, no, we don't think you're crazy at all. And now here we are. She's recently graduated. And at the end of July, so in about 6 weeks from now, my wife and I will be in a U-Haul for a day and a half driving to Texas with everything she owns, because she is going to the 22nd top-ranked law school in the United States at Texas A&M Law School. She made that happen, and I can't begin to tell you how proud of her that I am. By the way, I should mention that Megan also graduated from Western Kentucky University. And then let me come to my son. My son, as I shared, we took him to college. When he took, after high school, he took a year off before he decided he wanted to go to school to continue to get a degree. So we took him down to Western Kentucky University. And that's when, like I said, I gave him a big hug. I have a picture of us hugging that I think Stephanie took it or whatever. I can't remember, but it shows up on my phone every now and then, and it rips my heart out every time I see it, like in a positive, like, oh, man, I love that kid. But I remember dropping him off for his first semester at college down at Bowling Green, down in Bowling Green, Kentucky, at Western Kentucky University. And just he spent that first year there. He studied film studies and cinema and stuff like that, and he decided this is not what I want. And also, he had a girlfriend that was here close to home, to our home, and I think he missed her. And he's like, I think I'm going to drop out. And he dropped out and went and got a job. Was working very hard, and he and his girlfriend got an apartment together, and they were living their life. And I was very proud of him in the way that he was already showing up and operating in the world in so many different aspects. And like any young man, there were wrinkles to iron out, and just watching him navigate that has been rewarding. And once again, there are times when I stepped in and he's asking for my advice. Most of those conversations happened with Stephanie, this whole philosophical things. But when it came down to it, there were times where he's like, Dad, I'd like to ask you about this. And he's kind of like, I'm the kind who thinks very logical, very rational about things. It's like, here's what I would recommend. And I recognize he doesn't always like to follow my advice. And I'm like, fine with that. That's what I'm talking about. Is I've never been attached to my kids following my advice. It as crazy as that may sound to some people, it's just not my thing. It's like, listen, I'm here to give guidance if you want it. I'm here to share with you what I've learned, but I want you to find your way in this world. I want you to find your path. And I don't want you to stick within my rigid plans for what I think you should do. I don't know all of the answers. All of my advice is autobiographical, and quite frankly, there's so much that I've learned today about what I used to believe that I no longer believe. And so, let me not load you down with all the generational stuff that was handed to me. I'd love to navigate with you what I've learned if you're interested, and if you're not, somehow you'll learn some of it on your own, and maybe you'll teach me some things along the way. Anyway, this has been my approach as a father with all of my kids. But anyway, Matthew and his girlfriend eventually broke their relationship off. He ended up moving back here. It was going to be for a very short period of time while he landed on his feet, saved up enough money to go get a place on his own, but then decided, I want to be a school teacher. And he says, I want to be a math teacher. I know exactly the type of math teacher I want to be, and I want to go back to school. And he, instead of going back down to Western Kentucky University, he decided to go to Northern Kentucky University, which is a 25-minute drive from our house. We told him he could stay here. We would, take care of all of his living expenses here, his food and stuff while he's here. And man, has he been doing great. He's also had a job where he drives a school bus. He was driving full-time until his class schedule got so crazy that he could only do it part-time in the mornings. But he's been so responsible, and he's a genius when it comes to math. And not only that, but he's been studying Japanese as well, which I think came from his love from manga and whatever you call all of that other stuff. It's not Avatar. What is that called? It's manga and I don't know. It's One Piece and whatever all of that other Japanese. It's not cartoons. There's some other language for this. I can't think of what it's called right now, but he's totally into all of that Japanese culture stuff, and because of that, he decided, you know what? I'm gonna also take Japanese as my language because I have to take a language. And so that's what he did, and he fell in love with it, and he's like, I'm going to get a minor in Japanese. Well, he gets so involved in this Japanese studies that all of a sudden he's like, I think I could actually end up doing some pretty interesting things, not just having my education degree, not just my mathematics, the degree, but also I could see having a third degree for Japanese. And one of the things that he decided to do, he's like, Dad, I think I'm going to go and do a summer abroad in Japan. This was his own idea. This is his own thinking. He goes, I know it doesn't sound great. I mean, financially, it's going to be rough, because of this and all of this. I don't know, but this is what I want to do. And I said, son, if this is what you want to do, then you will make it happen. And the next thing I know, he's like, hey, Dad, guess what? I just bought my airline ticket to Japan. And he arranged that with four other students from Northern Kentucky University. All of them are going to Japan to study for a summer program of Japanese language and doing this cultural exchange program for the summer. And I got to just tell you that I share all of that, and I will share with you that my son lives in my house. My adult son lives in my house. And I've shared authentically and transparently earlier how much I grieve not having my empty nest. I love that I have the ability to influence my son. And I've always been an early riser. I love my early morning routine. I'm currently, 3-4 months in, waking up at 4 a.m. every single morning. But it used to be 5 a.m. But I had to start waking up at 4 a.m. instead of 5 a.m. And the reason why is because my son came to me. He's like, Dad, you're right. This rocks. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, I got up at 5 o'clock this morning. I said, no, I heard you upstairs above my office. He's, oh, sorry about that. And he walks like King Kong on the floor. He walks barefooted, and it's heavy footsteps on the hardwood floor right above my office. And I'm like, And I went, I'm sitting here and I'm navigating the fact that my son has found the value of having an hour or an hour and a half of alone solitude, quiet time in the morning to prepare himself before he leaves for work and then school for the day. And I love that, but it also, that was my protected time. Is like the whole idea is that I get a couple of hours before anyone else in the house is awake. And yet he's like, Dad, I love this. Thank you for introducing me to the early morning routine. And I'm like, you're welcome, son. Anyway, I share all of that to say that there are some times when in my own reflection, I'm like, oh man, I wish I had this house to myself, or that Stephanie and I had this house to myself. And recognizing at the same time what a gift it is to have this with my son. I know my wife has embraced it fully. And I'm starting to understand the value of it in ways that I wasn't consciously aware of before. So this morning, my son flew. He left the airport today, and he's currently on his way to Japan right now. He's currently on a 13-hour flight from Canada to Japan right now. And last night he calls me on the phone. I was over helping my mom and dad with some stuff at their place. And he says, Dad, what do you think about Waffle House in the morning? I said, yeah, we can do that. We can go to Waffle House. So this morning I woke up at 4:00. He was already awake because he just nervous about making sure he's got everything prepared to leave for this trip. But my son is going to Japan. He went and got his passport on his own. He went and navigated all of the things related to the financial side of making it work and just navigating all of the complexities of everything, all of it on his own. And I know it's like, that's so amazing. But to think that he is leaving for a month just did not occur to me. I know it's been on my calendar. It's been in several topics of conversation. But boy, did it hit me this morning. So we get up, we go to the Waffle House. I have my bacon and scrambled eggs because I'm on keto. He has a waffle. We sit down and just chit-chat for a little bit. It's freezing cold in there, so we drive to the airport viewing center where you can see planes land and take off, but that doesn't open until 8 a.m. So we went over to this thing called the cell phone lot, where you go and you sit and wait for your cell phone to go off, a text message or a phone call. So somebody tells you, I'm at baggage claim, you can come pick me up now. Anyway, we go into that lot and we just sit there and talk. And I hear him talk about his dreams. And he's talking about just how proud of himself he is that he's made this happen and what he went through to make it happen. And the fact that he says, part of me thinks, man, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity that I couldn't pass up. But then I know it's not, because I'm already thinking about the fact that I'm likely either going to, within 2 years or 3 years from now, do an entire year-long trip to Japan as well. And he sees it, he feels it, and he and I are talking about the degrees that he's working towards, the relationships he's got with his professors, the fact that everybody in the mathematics department just absolutely loves him, talks about him. The dean came up and is telling him things that the professors are saying to her and all this other stuff. And it just amazing. He's talking about all of the career paths that will be open, because originally he thought he was going to be a school teacher at our local school here. But he's like, but here's the other things that are open. I could do this, I could do this, I could do this. He says, and I've got a CDL, and so during the summers I could be doing this and this. It's like, there's just so much possibility. And we're just having this heart-to-heart conversation. And the key point here is, if I haven't clearly stated this is not an everyday occurrence, these conversations with my son, but when they happen, they matter. And he's like, Dad, when you drop me off with my bags, I want you to take a picture of me, because this is the first time I'm leaving the country like this by myself. And I said, I will. And I gave him a big hug. And my son said, he says, I love you, Dad. I'll see you in a month.
And it hit me. It hit me how much I don't mind him being in the house. And I bawled like a baby, crying all the way home. I love my son. I love my kids. And I love being a dad. And that's my 5th topic for the episode. And I recognize that I'm already over an hour. I want to share with you that this weekend, matter of fact, here's the topic number 6. And then the final topic would probably be related to my solopreneur songs. That is not what I said. Oh my gosh. Let me correct Whisperflow. And the final topic would probably be something related to my soul songs that I created yesterday. I probably wouldn't talk about the first song, but I could definitely see myself telling the story, the story about how this one song came in from a client. I'm actually filtering out personal details here, and how this song came about, and also the song "I Create Rooms Where People Rise." And then I asked ChatGPT. I said, "Thoughts on being this vulnerable?" ? And it gave me a beautiful response, very responsible, very well cautioned, detailed stuff. And I asked it for an outline, and the outline was just not me. The outline, I couldn't follow it. It just wasn't raw and straightforward enough. What you got is what I wanted to get to you. But let me just share with you, I've created these songs. Soul songs for me are the songs that speak the language of my soul to my mind. And I definitely feel a distinction between my soul and my mind. The soul and my identity/persona, or identities and personas and roles, ROLEs, that I play in this world. And one of the things that I have wanted to do is embody more conviction about my work that I do, because for the last 2.5 years, a majority of my focus has been on one-on-one coaching conversations, and I've slowly seen the size of my mastermind groups slowly go down. And I had not been bringing people back in because I thought that I was going in a different direction professionally. I thought that I would go in a direction but it became clear to me that no, one of the most powerful things that I do is I create rooms where people rise, where people can speak the truth of what's going on in their life. And so one of the things that I did was go into ChatGPT and said, hey, I want to reconnect to this conviction. I find myself so easily talking to people about the coaching that I do, and I invite them to the coaching I do, but I recognize that it seems like I'm out of the habit of inviting people just to come in and experience my mastermind groups. And I want to re-engage that conviction. I want to start speaking about it more boldly. And so ChatGPT asked me this question. It's like, hey, if you think about somebody's life who has been transformed as a result of being in a mastermind group experience with you, what name comes to mind? And I immediately named a name. Of course, there's about 8 names that I could tell stories that would bring tears to people's eyes. But the first name that came is like, okay, tell me more. And ChatGPT asks me all of these questions, and it calls out of me a story. And then that turned into an email. Now I'm going to read to you the email that went out to my email newsletter. It's called The Most Misunderstood Benefit of a Mastermind. Here's the email. A while back, a man joined one of my mastermind groups. From the outside, he looked like an incredibly successful business professional. But privately, he was carrying an enormous amount of weight. He was questioning himself constantly. He struggled with shame around pursuing success and wanting more, because the values placed on him growing up made ambition feel selfish, arrogant, and disloyal. In spite of the success that he had, he always doubted his value because he had spent years surrounded by people who viewed his biggest dreams as unrealistic and causing him to question whether he was actually capable of achieving them. He felt stuck in patterns that had followed him for most of his life. Like many entrepreneurs, he believed his biggest problem was business. It wasn't. His biggest problem was that he could no longer clearly see himself. Week after week, he showed up. Within his first month, the mastermind meeting became the most anticipated event on his weekly schedule because the room gave him something he could not create alone. It gave him perspective, reflection, encouragement, examples of what was possible, people who had overcome some of the same struggles that he was facing himself, people who could see strengths in him that he could not yet see in himself. And over time, something remarkable happened. His business improved. His confidence expanded. His relationships changed. His decisions became clearer. But those were all downstream effects. The real transformation was this: he stopped seeing himself as someone who was broken, limited, or destined to repeat the past. He began to see himself differently. And once he did, everything else started to change. This is one of the most misunderstood benefits of a mastermind. People think that they join for strategy, and sometimes they do. But often the greatest value is discovering what becomes possible when you spend time in an environment that consistently reflects back your strengths, your potential, and a vision for your future that is bigger than the one you've been able to hold for yourself. If you're already in a mastermind group, ask yourself this: is the room that I'm in helping me see more clearly, think more courageously, make better decisions? And is it helping me become the kind of person capable of creating the future that I say that I want? If not, you may need a better room. I've been facilitating entrepreneurial mastermind groups since October 2010. And I've seen firsthand what happens when the right people are placed in the right room with the right level of honesty, encouragement, challenge, and support. I'm currently having conversations with entrepreneurs who are ready for that kind of environment. If that's you, hit reply on this email and let me know what kind of room you're looking for. Now, that is the email that came out as a result of this back and forth dialogue with ChatGPT about the first person who came to mind. And then I asked ChatGPT to do something. I said, can you go and confirm and verify with all of my interactions some of these stories? And ChatGPT says, Cliff, you're not going to believe what I found. It doesn't talk to me like that. It's like, hey, I found something that I want to point out to you. So it found an email titled "Thank You," and I read this email and I'm like, oh my gosh, if I had this reflected to me on a consistent, ongoing basis, I would never lose this embodied conviction about talking about the rooms I create. And so what I did is I asked ChatGPT to help me take what was written in that email
and turn it into what I call a soul song. A soul song for me is a song that speaks the language of my soul to my mind. And it says, this is what I know to be true. This speaks to what I want to be reminded of. This is a signal that tells you what's important to stay focused on. This is a filter and a lens through which I want to see my world. That is what a soul song is for me. And because I am 1 hour and 10 minutes into this episode, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share 2 songs that I created this weekend. The first song that you're going to hear is called The Life I Saw Inside. This is the song based upon the email from this client that I was just telling you about. And then after that, I created another song and I went to ChatGPT and I said, I need a song that will consistently remind me of the work that I do in the world. I want it to be so front and forward in my mind, the value of the mastermind group environment that I create, the rooms that I create where people rise. Here are those 2 songs back to back.
Cliff, I know you sensed how lost I felt when we first began to speak. I had a voice inside my head that knew just where I was weak. I had quit on life in quiet ways. I wore the weight of shame. I could not think of anything but business loss and blame. I was lost, giving myself a full diet of terrible messages. I believed I'd never improve any aspect of my life, but something in me reached for help, and somehow I found my way. Joining your next level mastermind opened the door that changed my life that day. Thank you for seeing more in me than I could see back then. Thank you for helping me believe that I could rise again. I feel possible, optimistic and certain. I feel something new inside. I've got more creative ideas now, and I'm living the life I saw inside. I used to think success was only money, and that the numbers were my proof. But now I see it's all of me, the whole man standing in truth. I now have a fuller understanding of what success means to me. It's not just money, not just business. It's the man I choose to be. I can be happy right now as long as I choose to be. I can stop waiting for someday to finally set me free. And somewhere in the middle of the pain I had walked through, I found myself back with God in a way that finally felt true. Thank you for seeing more in me than I could see back then. Thank you for helping me believe that I could rise again. I feel possible, optimistic and certain. I feel something new inside. I've got more creative ideas now, and I'm living the life I saw inside. I was not a fully damaged outcast. I was a man who had been feeding himself the wrong story. I had set my thermostat on frigid, but I've changed my self-belief. And I'm setting myself up for the life I want, I've rethought my entire law practice. I've rethought my value as a lawyer. I've rethought what is possible for me. And this is a 180-degree turnaround for me. You help me work my mental muscle. You help me hear a better sound. You help me notice old beliefs before they pulled me down. Not just my wishes, not just my wants. I'm setting standards for my life. I've rewritten old beliefs that used to keep me up at night. I'm taking active steps now to direct the life I see. No longer waiting on the world to tell me who to be. Feet on the floor before 4:31. That little line became a trigger. Feet on the floor before 4:31. One small promise made me bigger. Feet on the floor before 4:31. I'm not waiting for permission. Feet on the floor before 4:31. I'm becoming my decision. Thank you for seeing more in me than I could see back then. Thank you for helping me believe that I could rise again. I feel possible, optimistic and certain. I feel something new inside. I've got more creative ideas now, and I'm living the life I saw inside. I was lost, but I am not lost now. I was cold, but I turned to the flame. I was feeding on terrible messages, but I no longer answer to that name. I feel possible. I feel optimistic. I feel certain. And I wanted you to know the impact you made on me. People ask me, Cliff, what are you up to? What kind of work do you do these days? I take a deep breath and feel the answer, rising up from a deeper place. I sit with founders, dreamers, builders, people carrying weight they rarely name. Some have money, teams, and traction, but still carry quiet pain. Some are standing at the threshold. Some are scaling what they've made. Some are asking bigger questions than the ones that got them paid. For the ones who've built the business, for the ones who've made it work, for the ones with deep responsibility and pressure underneath the perks. They don't need another tactic. They don't need more noise or speed. They need a room of honest mirrors and peers who understand the lives they lead. It's a room for weighty questions, for the roots that run so deep, where capable leaders bring the truth they rarely get to speak. We talk about money, margin, meaning, leadership, leverage, family, fear. The things that only surface when the right people gather near. It's a room for wealth with wisdom, ambition without losing soul. A room where success gets redefined by who they're becoming as a whole. I create rooms where people rise, where they name what they really want, clearer eyes. I help them find the next right move with honest reflection and support. They follow through on what they choose. This is what I do. And then there is the momentum room, for those with something they can feel. They've got a gift to call a longing, but need support to make it real. Some have offers still forming. Some have skills they underprice. Some are building while still working. Some are ready for the next step to feel right. It's a room for honest traction, for focus they can hold, where ideas become movement and stronger lives, and businesses unfold. This room helps desire find direction and gives their next move somewhere to land, with clarity and steady support. Their vision starts to stand. We name the offer, we name the fear, we name the story underneath. We find the step that feels alive and give clean structure to believe. I create rooms where people rise, where they name what they really want and move with clearer eyes. I help them find the next right move with honest reflection and support. They follow through on what they choose. This is what I do. I facilitate transformation. I create peer environments. I hold space for truth and movement. I help people rise in alignment. No more pressure, no more performance, no more hustle in disguise. Clean desire, clear decisions, aligned action, a better life. I create rooms where people rise, where they name what they really want and move with clearer eyes. I help them find the next right move with honest reflection and support. They follow through on what they choose. This is what I do for established entrepreneurs, for momentum builders too, for the one who needs a mirror and a steadier way through. I create rooms where people rise. This is what I do.
Well, there you go. Those are the two songs that I created this week, and I have now successfully shared with you what I wanted to share. In fact, at the beginning, I told you that if you listen all the way to the end, I want you to walk away from this episode thinking that you can become more conscious of the systems that are shaping your life. I also told you that I hope that you can understand the value of speaking the truth about what is actually working and what is not working when it comes to the things you want to create in this world. And it's okay if you honor family and your work and calling with emotion and not needing to have everything all figured out and polished in such a way that impresses everyone in the world. And if you are ready for a room where you can rise and get clarity about how to move forward, those next exact aligned steps that let you move forward and gain momentum with clearer eyes, I would encourage you to email me. Don't assume that what I have to offer won't work. I have two powerful groups. One's for established entrepreneurs who invest in themselves and the environment at a significant level. But I also have an option called the Momentum Mastermind. And I encourage you, at least reach out to me and ask me for some details. I'd love to share with you what the Momentum Group is. And it might just surprise you about the opportunity that exists for you to get into a room where you can rise. Until next time, I encourage you to email me, cliff@cliffravenscraft.com. Put, "I'm ready for a room where I can rise" in the subject line and take everything you do to the next level.